Good morning, everyone. I call this May meeting of the Board of Trustees to order. Teresa Cummins, Trustee Cummins, will you please provide the invocation?
Yes, absolutely. Good morning to everyone. I am happy to introduce the chaplain for North Mississippi Health Services, Dr. Don Simmons. Thank you, Dr. Simmons.
Thank you, everyone. And I want to just start by saying this is chaplain is second career for me. I worked in higher education throughout most of my life, worked at many of the institutions, and graduated from a number of the institutions that you are serving. I just want to thank you for all that you do, and the work is. I truly feel like your work is not always appreciated, and you may feel that way as well. But you are doing, as they say, the Lord's work. Let's begin with a prayer. Heavenly Father, we come to you today and praise and thanksgiving, Lord, for the opportunity to serve, the opportunity to work with others, to further the education of all those in our state. I ask that you give the trustees wisdom, Heavenly Father, that they make wise choices, that they be discerning, and that they always seek what is best for the people of our state. We especially lift up today President Martin, Dr. Cummings, and all those on the trustee board. Again, we ask today, Heavenly Father, that you be with them and you guide them in their work today. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Trustee Cummins, and Dr. Simmons, thank you so much. On behalf of the IHL Board, I would like to welcome 3 new IHL trustees. Joining us today is Mr. Jimmy Heidelberg, Mr. Jerry Griffith, and Mr. Charlie Stevenson. The 4th trustee, Mr. Don Clark, was unable to participate. Welcome, and we look forward to serving with you. I'd also like to welcome the SGA officers. If you would, please use the mic to introduce yourselves.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Hannah Watts, and I am the Associated Student Body President for the University of Mississippi.
Good morning. My name is Carson McFatridge, and I serve as the Student Association President at Mississippi State University.
Thank you so much. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Thank you. Next are the consent agendas. Are there any items that need to be moved to the regular agenda? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Thank you. Excuse me. I committed a cardinal sin, didn't I? Trustee Parker, will you present the academic affairs agenda?
Academic affairs has 4 items on the regular agenda. First item on the agenda is annual nursing report. Dr. Temple will provide us with this information.
Good morning. Thank you, Trustee Parker. As the regulatory authority for accreditation of schools of nursing in the state of Mississippi, the Office of Student and Academic Affairs Nursing Education oversees the development, implementation, and evaluation of new and existing schools of nursing, that's public, private, and community college in Mississippi. Deans and directors of schools of nursing submit an annual report and for review to IHL Nursing Education. In addition, schools of nursing are required to be nationally accredited, and a state site visit takes place concurrently with the national accrediting body. For the next agenda item, you have been provided with handouts in a folder to include data from the Mississippi Board of Nursing and a summary from IHL Annual Nursing Report. I've also put a few slides together. Handout 1, Table 1, is Mississippi active licensure statistics. There are close to 53,000 active registered nursing licenses in Mississippi. The number of APRN licensed nurses continues to grow. We added 758 this past year. The majority of those APRN licenses, which are your advanced practice registered nurses, are certified nurse practitioners. Table 2 is Mississippi licensure statistics by degree. The number of registered nurses with a bachelor's degree and an associate degree are close in number. However, baccalaureate degree prepared nurses do slightly outnumber associate degree prepared nurses. The second handout includes a brief summary of the full May 2024 annual report for Mississippi nursing degree programs based on the data submitted by Schools of Nursing Fall 2023. The annual report is included in your packet, and the annual report will be available on the IHL Nursing Education website. On the second handout, the first table provides information including the 25 state-approved schools of nursing by type of institution and 41 degree programs offered. Table 2 provides the current admission, enrollment, and graduate numbers. During academic year 2023-2024, there were 3,865 admissions compared to 3,924 for the previous academic year. That's a difference of about 59 students from last year. Overall admissions have decreased 2.3% over the past 5 years, with a decrease seen at the associate and baccalaureate levels, but increases seen in our graduate programs. On the PowerPoint slide, this further is broken down into pre-licensure programs, which are our new nurse graduates. While there has been a decrease in our BSN programs, the decrease has been in the post-licensure RN to BSN program options. The pre-licensure option has an 8.4% increase. Mississippi schools did report having more qualified applicants than they could admit. Enrollment in fall of 2023, there were 5,810 students enrolled, which is a slight increase compared to the previous year's enrollment. There has been an overall 3% decrease in enrollment across all programs. Just like with admissions, the decrease is at the associate and baccalaureate degree level, while graduate programs have experienced an increase. The PowerPoint slide again further shows enrollment numbers of our pre-licensure programs, with the associate degree programs having a greater decrease in enrollment than our BSN programs. Graduates during the academic year 2022-2023, there were 2,638 graduates as compared to 2,557 for the previous academic year. That's 81 more students than last year. The 5-year trend still indicates an overall decline, representing the overall decrease in admissions and enrollment that we experienced in the wake of the pandemic. If you look at the PowerPoint slide, you can see there was an increase from last year in associate degree programs and baccalaureate degree programs, with 104 more from associate degree programs and 100 more from our BSN programs. Handout 3, Table 1. This is the nurse faculty vacancy rates reported by our schools of nursing. The rate continues to increase, with the highest being reported by our community colleges. 117 full-time nursing faculty and deans reported that they do plan to retire in the next 3 to 5 years, and that represents 24% of our full-time faculty and deans and directors. Table 2 is our NCLEX RN licensure exam pass rate as reported by First Rights, because this is how we compare to how the national is reported. I want to point out that our Mississippi programs do continue to outperform the national trend. The rate of 92% in 2023 is a very good rate. And for the first quarter of 2024, we have a 98% first-time pass rate for our new nurse graduates from our programs in the state of Mississippi. And that is while faculty were preparing students for a new exam. There was a change in the exam, and they're also experiencing a nursing faculty shortage. The faculty and administrators for our schools of nursing are doing an excellent job preparing nurses for our state. And I'm happy to entertain any questions. I would also like to present the recommendations for accreditation for schools of nursing for board approval. This handout is also in your packet. During the 2023-2024 academic year, 2 schools of nursing and 2 program types had a state and national accreditation site visit. Today, I'm presenting findings based on the annual report as well as those site visits. Initial, full, and continuing accreditation for all programs is recommended except for 4 schools of nursing representing 6 programs for continuing accreditation with conditions, with the reason and condition listed on the next page. The conditions requirement include the development of a performance improvement plan by June 30th or a follow-up report to a national accrediting body. Additional monitoring requirements have been placed on programs that have not met one or more state-specific or national requirement. Board staff recommends approval of this item.
You've heard the recommendations. I make a motion to approve this item.
Any discussion?
I have a question. First of all, thank you for your good work with this. I think most people in our state don't realize that we have statutory authority over all nursing programs. I think the state of New York and the state of Mississippi are unique in that regard, and that it falls with higher education rather than the Board of Nursing. So I appreciate you for all you do for those things. I wanted to follow up on those programs that have something yet to do, such as the conditions, and I understand those that would give reports to us. If they're going to give reports to a national accreditation agency, do you receive copies of those, or what is your involvement or our involvement as IHL with that?
Yes, sir. They send all communications from and to the national accrediting body to IHL Nursing Education for review.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
Dr. Presswood will present the remaining recommendations for the board's consideration.
Thank you, Trustee Parker. We have requests to add new academic units from Mississippi State University. They are requesting the School of Health Professions to be established on the MSU Meridian campus. This school will house the Department of Physician Assistant Studies and the Department of Healthcare. Academic degree programs to be housed in this school are the Master of Science in Physician Assistant Studies, the Bachelor of Science in Healthcare Administration, and the Bachelor of Applied Science in Healthcare Administration. The 5-year cost of implementation is approximately $2.9 million. Mississippi State is also requesting the School of Nursing to be established on the MSU Meridian campus. This school will house the Accelerated Master of Science in Nursing Initial Licensure Program. The School of Nursing will also serve as a home for developing new educational initiatives to elevate the education of the current nursing workforce through graduate study and new emerging professional certificates. The 5-year cost of implementation is approximately $11.4 million. Board staff recommends approval of these items.
You've heard the recommendations. I'll make a motion to approve this item.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion?
I have some limited discussion. I've had extensive discussion with Dr. Keenum and Dr. Shaw, and I appreciate their sharing information with me. I am not opposed to these namings after further discussion with them this morning. I just want us to be clear that the program at Mississippi State which we have all supported at the first two stages. And I believe we will all continue to support in the third stage and wish Mississippi State the best with that continued accreditation, is a limited program of a master's for students that have not received an undergraduate in nursing. And that is what had been brought to us as being requested, and that's what we have granted. So our reference to a school of nursing is different than what it will be at Delta State or at Alcorn or at the W or at Southern Miss or at Ole Miss. A name is still a name. So I trust Mississippi State's going to do the things that they think are in the best interest of their programs. But I just wanted to point out the differences in those programs. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passed. Thank you. Is there a presentation of item 3?
I'll continue. Next on the agenda, we have a request to add a new academic degree program. Mississippi State University requests the creation of the Bachelor of Science in Artificial Intelligence to be housed in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. This 120-hour degree program is designed to equip students with the knowledge, skills, and expertise required to become proficient in design and development of artificial intelligence systems. This program provides a strong foundation in computer science, statistics and probability theory, data analytics, cognitive science, machine learning, robotics, ethics and AI, and specialized electives. The market demand for AI skills has been robust and continues to grow. AI has been incorporated into various industries, including technology, finance, healthcare, retail and e-commerce, entertainment, automotive, agriculture, and manufacturing. Salaries in the various areas range from $96,000 to $150,000. Board staff recommends approval of this item.
You heard the recommendations. I'll make a motion to approve this item. Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you.
The last item on the agenda is a request for approval of first reading of several proposed amendments to Section 600 policies, which is the Student Affairs and Admissions section. You were given 2 handouts. IEOs, I apologize, the handouts will be emailed to you after today's meeting. Handout 1 is a marked up copy of the proposed amendments. All changes are presented in red. Strike-throughs indicate that existing language is being deleted. Underlines indicate that new language is being added. Handout 2 is a clean copy of the proposed amendments. At the top of Handout 2, you will also see a list of rationales for the proposed amendments. The rationales for these amendments are, number 1, to clarify the admissions policies to ensure consistent implementation across the IHL system. Number 2, to simplify the manual time-consuming process of calculating the college preparatory curriculum grade point average, which does not provide a complete picture of the student's academic work. And 3, to clarify residency and align residency policies with court cases that dictate decisions and processes regarding residency. Also on Handout 2, after the rationales, you will see a timeline of the review and revision process. The need to review the board policies in Section 600 was first discussed in the Chief Academic Officer's meeting in August 2023. In October 2023, we convened a meeting at the Mississippi State Cavs Extension Center in Canton. All university chief academic officers, vice presidents of enrollment management, directors of admission, university council, special assistants in the AG's office, and IHL staff were invited to participate. With approximately 50 people attending, we began reviewing each policy in Section 600. As you can see on the timeline presented, we continued this work over the course of the past 8 months. So today I'm going to present to you the recommendations of this working group, which have been approved by the IHL Chief Academic Officers and myself. And we propose that 7 of the 18 policies in Section 600 be amended due to rationales, which I just mentioned. You can use Handout 1 to follow along with the slides that I'm going to use to provide you with the highlight of the proposed amendments. Section 601, remove a reference to the manual, which has historically been a copy of the policies as well as a procedure manual for the summer developmental program. The reason for this is institutions should reference the policies and bylaws on the IHL website to ensure that they are using the most current policies, and the summer developmental program is no longer managed by IHL and no longer required to be a set program across all institutions. 602A, remove beginning with students entering in fall 22 from the title, since that is no longer necessary. Change language in the mathematics required college preparatory curriculum to make requirements clearer for counselors. Add a sentence at the end to account for students seeking admission from other states to Mississippi that they must earn credits for the courses listed on the college preparatory curriculum or equivalent preparation as determined by the admitting IHL institution. 602B, deleting the sentence that says the college preparatory curriculum grade point average will be used to determine admissions, and adding a definition for first-time undergraduate. We are proposing the following changes to full admission requirements. Instead of calculating a college preparatory curriculum GPA, an admissions office would check courses to ensure that the CPC or equivalent courses have been completed. And then they would use the cumulative GPA as reported by the high school or use an IHL-approved unweighted cumulative GPA calculator. Changes are proposed to criteria 1, 2, and 3 to use the cumulative GPA instead of the college preparatory curriculum GPA. And then removing number 4 as one of the numbered criteria and making it stand alone since it's the NCAA Division I standards that for admission criteria. 602B continued, remove the statement about students scoring below 16 on the ACT since that is covered by another policy. Add a statement that says, in addition to their use for admissions, institutions may require ACT scores, AccuPlacer, or other assessments for placement purposes prior to registration. Criteria 1 and 2 in NCAA Division I standards do not require an ACT or SAT score for admission, but institutions do need these assessment scores for placement purposes. Add a statement that students must submit a final official transcript with graduation date prior to the second term of enrollment, and add a statement that admitting institutions may establish additional admission requirements. 602C, the changes here are just for clarification purposes to say that this holistic admissions process may be used for Mississippi residents and graduates of any Mississippi high school who applied and failed to meet full admission standards in Section B. 602C1, clarify the language to say that students may be fully admitted as a result of this review. 602C2, each institution defines readiness through their placement cutoff scores, so adding language here to say as determined by the admitting institution in compliance with 608 intermediate courses, then changing summer developmental program to a developmental program that will be developed by the institution. 602D, year-long academic support program, delete this subsection, making this subsection D instead of E, and changing the title to admission as a U.S. citizen transfer student, add the IPEDS definition for transfer student, add criteria for full admission for transfer students with 30 or more transferable hours, add criteria for full admission for transfer students with less than 30 transferable hours, add a statement that institutions may establish additional admission requirements for transfer students. 602E, clarify the language to say that non-residents of Mississippi will be admitted using the same qualifications as Mississippi residents or equivalent preparation as determined by the admitting institution. Adding a new section called Other Factors. This would be a new policy to allow an institution to consider other relevant criteria, such as an applicant's criminal conviction history or student conduct history at a high school or another institution of higher learning. Now, this does not automatically preclude a student from being admitted. It allows the institution to conduct a review to make their admission decision. 603, clarify the language for consistency and add a statement to allow admitting institutions to establish additional admission requirements. 604, change the title to other applicants and group the applicant categories. So the two groups would be applicants without a diploma from a regionally accredited high school and homeschool students, and applicants with a high school equivalency and international students. Add clarifying language and a statement that applicants in this section may validate the college preparatory curriculum in an alternate way. Admitting institutions may establish additional admission requirements and add a statement that these applicants may be required to appear for on-campus interviews. 608, add language to say that institutions may require ACT, SAT scores, Accuplacer, and/or other assessments for placement prior to registration. And that would be added to statements A through C. 610, we've reordered several subsections of 610, clarified the residency language, aligned residency policies with court cases that dictate decisions and processes regarding residency. On 610E, remove reference to community and junior colleges and clarify the residency language. 610F, once again, clarify residency language. Then 612, remove references to boards of community and junior colleges and remove extra language to state that only the Board of Trustees of institutions of higher learning are authorized to prescribe the amount of tuition and fees to be paid by students. Board staff, the proposed policy changes, if approved, will be effective for spring 2025 applications received after July 1st, 2024, and all future term applications. Board staff recommends approval for first reading of proposed policy amendments.
Thank you, Dr. Presswood. You've heard the recommendations. I'll make a motion to approve this item.
Is there a second? Any discussion?
President Martin, I don't have any discussion. I just want to take the opportunity to say that this is long overdue. I want to thank Dr. Presswood and her work with the chief academic officers, the chief enrollment officers, the legal counsel, and in particular, directors of admissions on our campuses and cleaning up Section 600. I think functionally, this is going to help students in the state because it will allow our institutions to process their applications more effectively and get decisions to our students in a more efficient manner. So I applaud the work, and this is a great example of our institutions working together with our staff here for the betterment of the students here in the state of Mississippi.
Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Presswood.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Trustee Parker. Trustee Lucky?
Ready?
We voted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Do we have a motion? I think we've done that. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion. Thank you.
This concludes academic affairs.
Good morning, everyone. I'm a substitute today, so you'll have to bear with me if I do something incorrectly. I told John Pierce just to throw something at me and I'll do better. There are 7 items on the regular finance agenda this morning: 2 insurance renewals from the system office, a software agreement from the University of Mississippi, a purchase agreement from the University of Mississippi Medical Center, 3 items from appropriations, charges to students, and salary changes for FY 2025 annual operating budget. I will now call on John Pierce to discuss the specifics of these items. John?
Thank you. I believe Trustee Ogletree will step out for items number 1 through 3.
Bridget, would you let the record reflect that trustee Ogletree is recusing himself from discussing or voting on items 1 through 3 on the finance and regular agenda? And Bridget, you'll let him know when he's able to return. Trustee?
Unless there are objections, I recommend that we take up items 1 and 2 as a group.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a request from the System Office to approve a renewal of cyber liability insurance policy with Lloyd's of London Beasley Syndicate. The System Office has contracted with Beasley since FY 2018, and the policy provides for transferring cyber liability risk to Beasley and for expert assistance and access to a network of contractors in the event of a breach at pre-negotiated rates. The cost of the renewal is $520,000 for a 1-year term. IHL may cancel the policy with 60 days notice. IHL conducted a request for proposals in 2023 and solicited 5 insurers. Beasley provided the only quote. Item number 2 is a request from the University of Mississippi Medical Center to amend a participation agreement with Cardinal Health 110 and Cardinal Health 112 to extend the term. The agreement is for pharmaceutical distribution services for UMMC Specialty Pharmacy 430B contract pharmacy business. Cardinal is responsible for inventory stocking, deliveries, contracting with manufacturers, invoicing, and reporting. The amended term of the agreement is for 10 years, amending the original term of 5 years. The estimated cost of the 10-year agreement is $57.9 million, an increase from the original 5-year estimated cost of $22.9 million. The agreement may be terminated with 90 days notice. Legal staff has reviewed items number 1 and 2 for compliance with applicable law and found them to be acceptable. Board staff recommends approval of items number 1 and 2.
You have heard the recommendations from the board staff, and I make a motion to approve items 1 and 2. Second.
Right. Hear a motion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion passed. Bridget, would you let the record reflect that I'm recusing myself from discussing or voting on item 3 on the finance regular agenda?
Dr. Pierce, please proceed with item number 3.
Item number 3 is a request from the System Office for a property insurance renewal agreement with affiliated FM Insurance Company, and David Buford, the Director of Risk Management for the system, will present this item.
Good morning. So this agenda item is in reference to our system property insurance program. And in 2009, we consolidated. So prior to 2009, each university was purchasing their insurance individually. And as a system efficiency effort, we created a pooled program, which has been extremely effective throughout the years, almost 15 years now. The initial year dropped the rate 47%, and we've probably saved over $150 million in premiums as a conservative number by having a pooled system program through these years. This particular year, though, is an extremely hard insurance market, and the challenge and change for this year is much higher deductibles. So although our rate has increased this year, the deductibles have gone up. And so we are retaining more risk than we have in the past. And so one of the more dramatic changes with the deductibles is for freeze losses. So you have a pipe that freezes and floods your buildings. This current year, that deductible was $250,000. And now for this renewal year, it's going to be $2.5 million. So a substantial difference in how we will have to prepare as far as having cash on hand and reserves at the university level. Okay, so as an example of the impact of higher deductibles, if we had the same claims that we had this current year under this renewal, universities would pay $7 million more to meet that deductible level. This last year was a bad claims year, though. So if we look at a 5-year average, it's about an extra $4 million that would be spent towards deductibles. So why are insurance costs increasing? And so this is targeting three areas that are leading to increasing costs for insurance. Nationally, there's inflation. I think everyone in this room is aware that there's been a lot of inflation. So, but to make a more local example, for IHL in the last 3 years, our property values have increased by $1.83 billion. And so that's, as the cost to replace buildings or repair buildings increases, our values increase because it's replacement cost values that we're keeping up with. And what has that done with our premium over the last 3 years? We've seen a 40% increase in premium. And that is the equivalent of a $3 million premium change from 3 years ago. Regionally, what's happening is that the catastrophic risks for wind, tornadoes, and hail damage is increasing for the region. And our broker will talk more about that on one of his slides in a moment. And then with the IHL system itself, we've had 2 bad claims years. So that's $19 million in losses in the last 2 years. So these are reasons that it's been an especially difficult, renewal, and that we're seeing higher costs. And so this slide is called Cost Mitigation and Insurability with AFM. And so as an introduction to who AFM is, that's Affiliated FM, that's our primary insurance company. And AFM is different than a lot of insurance companies because they focus on engineering. They put a magnifying glass on you. They have lower rates, but they're able to be selective in who they insure. And so they come to all of our campuses with their engineers. They look at all of our buildings each year, and they voice concerns about how we can improve. So overall, from a loss control perspective, it's very positive to have that feedback. It can be challenging though when you have losses to keep them as an insurance company. So here's some system level things that we've done that have been very helpful. Similar to the way that this is an efficiency program with the insurance overall, the IHL board has approved mitigation response contracts. So we have faster response at a lower price when we have a loss. And so anecdotally at the IHL, there was a water issue a few weeks ago. And using these system contracts was 30% less than the price we would have gotten otherwise. And these contracts have been used extensively by the universities. In the last 3 years, we've used them for approximately $14 million worth of services. So they're being used and they're good. And our insurance company appreciates that because that cuts down on how much they pay us for claims if our costs are lower. Another system contract is the Gordian contract. That's a $5.6 million investment that the system is making. And it has a team of people that are looking at all of our facilities. So they're visiting all of our campuses on the universities. They're also looking at our facilities staffing levels and benchmarking. Do we have appropriate staffing to be good stewards of our buildings? Along the level of staffing, IHL's office facilities is creating a new position to help with looking at building maintenance issues. My office staff is more involved with some software solutions to help with fire safety, which is going to give us real-time look at the monthly maintenance of fire systems. And we've done an appraisal program, which in the last 2 years, so we have recent appraisals of all of our buildings that are valued at over $5 million. Our insurer is always very concerned that our numbers are correct on our values. And the last bullet on this slide is a plan for something that's in the works. It is something that we're exploring, and that is we always want to look at other efficiency ideas. How can we help the universities deal with their higher deductibles? Is there a pooled way that we can help finance to fund something together? So that's our actuary has suggested that $8 million is how much it would take to fund such a plan. But again, that's something we're working on that we, at the earliest, we could work on for July. And I'll add one more important factor here, and that is funding from the legislature. Once our insurer was interested in not renewing us, John Pierce I really appreciated his help and our legislative liaison for highlighting the funding that we received in 2023 for building maintenance, which was an important factor for our insurer to see that we're being good stewards of our buildings. And I'd like to introduce Jeff Estes. So thanks to our broker Jeff Estes here with Arthur J. Gallagher. He not only has over 30 years experience, but he's worked extremely hard to bring us the best option we can get this year for our insurance renewal. So Jeff.
Thanks, David. David asked me to come here today to talk a little bit about the challenges that we're facing in the insurance industry. And I can assure you it's been a very bad 3 to 5 years to be a property insurance broker. We've been in an extremely tough environment, and it really has been kind of the worst market I've seen in my career. And a lot of reasons, this is just y'all may have seen these slides before, but this is all the billion-dollar events that happened in 2023. And there was 28 of them. And in the last 5 years, there's been double what had been in the previous 40 years. The thing that makes this strange is there was no named storm, which is really what we consider a traditional catastrophic exposure last year. This is all being driven by secondary perils. And secondary perils are wildfires, straight line wind, tornado, hail, and freeze losses. And when you look at our region, if you look at, the state of Mississippi, the slide on the left shows kind of what traditionally had been we had seen as Tornado Alley. And if you look in the red, we've really shifted to the south and to the east. And this new slide on the far right is dated 2024. That's the new severe wind and hail mapping for the United States. And you can see that the entire state of Mississippi is included in that map for wind and hail. So in our state, we've traditionally had issues with property insurance post Hurricane Katrina for sure, but it really been confined to the lower 6 counties. If you live in Gulfport, Biloxi, you're used to having, issues with flood insurance. You're used to having to deal with percentage wind and hail. You're used to having to layer property policies. But really the rest of the state has really traditionally been able to buy the coverage under a, single carrier type program. To the left is to the right is the next concern. And that's just what we consider a dynamic ring analysis. So that's at the University of Mississippi. There's 71 buildings within a quarter of a mile of each other that total $1.7 billion of total insured value. So what the underwriters and reinsurers are worried about is they know it's just a matter of time. One of these tornadoes that's coming through is going to hit one of our campuses, and we could have a $50 to $100 to $150 million loss. So they're trying to raise deductibles to help offset that and build up money for the big claims that they're going to have to pay. We have a similar scenario at Mississippi State, the medical center, and a little bit smaller on the smaller universities, but all of them are several $100 million. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but IHL has traditionally had one insurance company, affiliated FM, which David talked about. Most large property programs have gone to a excess and surplus lines type structure with multiple insurance carriers. So this is just a sample of what that would look like. You might have 30 to 50 companies to be able to buy your limit. It's a way to spread the risk where, if you did have a big claim, you only have to pay a little bit at a time. We did do a very in-depth study to see if it would work for IHL this year. We got indications from about 25 markets, and just for 2024, it did not make sense. This is our loss ratio, and David alluded to that. The last 2 years we've had, we've had some claims, mostly winter freeze losses, but our overall loss ratio was 64%, but in the current year, we're at 106%. And the issue and why we've had to raise the water damage deductible is we've had 3 winter freeze losses in the last 4 years that have totaled over $10 million. And those happened at multiple universities. So it was kind of a similar occurrence, but it wasn't the same universities every time, but it was 3 to 5 with each storm. This is just a timeline, and I want to take a little bit of time to commend John Pierce, David, and Ron Dene and their staffs. We would not be in a position to renew with AFM. The slides that David went over and the work he did with the mitigation contracts and talking about the funding, if we hadn't been able to show AFM that we were committed to risk management, I think we'd be in a much different situation, and they did an outstanding job. But in 2022, we had a $6 million hail claim. Then in June, we had Delta State had a $3.4 million, we had a $6 million freeze claim in December 2022. Then in hail claim in June, AFM told us they were non-renewing this program in October, and David and John and Rod, and we got together with AFM's management team, and we were able to convince them to provide a renewal. As soon as they agreed to renew, we had another $6 million freeze claim. So it's been a lot of work over the last 6 months to get us to this point. But David is correct. There are changes, and everybody needs to understand that the individual universities will be taking a lot more risk. We are moving to one single policy with a $750 million limit per occurrence. The all other peril or fire deductible is moving to $1 million. That had been either 100,000 or 250,000, depending on the size of your university. David mentioned that the water damage deductible is going to from 250,000 to 2.5 million per university. And then a wind and hail deductible of 3% will be per building, subject to a minimum of $1 million per occurrence. That's another pretty significant change. The wind and hail deductibles for everybody other than Southern Mississippi were either 100,000 or 250,000. From a rate standpoint, the rate increase was 8%. And if you see how this breaks down, AFM is the lion's share of the premium. It was an 8% rate increase. Your actual insured values this year were down a little bit. Mississippi State and Southern Miss buy separate wind and hail policy for locations in the bottom 6 counties. Both of those renewals were flat on rate. Southern Miss's premium was up because they added some locations from the Port Authority, which increased their total insured values, but about 20%. And so overall, we've got about a 10% difference in premium of for this current year and a 12% increase in rate. I can turn it back over to David for questions or.
If y'all have any questions, let us know. We'll be glad to answer them. And otherwise, board staff recommends approval of this item.
You have heard the recommendations from the board staff. Is there a motion to approve item 3? Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Any discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say no.
Thank you.
Bridget, please ask Trustee Ogletree and Martin to return to the room. Hey, Bruce, you're on.
Yeah. Dr. Pierce, would you please proceed to item number 4?
Thank you. Item number 4 is a request to approve the FY 2025 appropriation allocation. And the next few slides will be in a handout that you have at your desk that covers this information. The system office year over year from 24 to 25 received about a $3.5 million increase in appropriations from the legislature. However, most of this is due to a change in capital funding year over year, notably the $39 million decrease in capital funds from 2024. If you look at the top line, so we have 9 appropriation bills that give us these funds. 4 of them are in the agriculture budget at the bottom. But the top line is what we refer to as the education and general fund budget, and that contains all of the funds that are not line item, so that would be unrestricted that your board can allocate. The capital funds, UMMC, the agriculture budgets, each of the subsidiaries, those are received with direction from the legislature about which budget they can be spent in. But within that education and general fund budget, we had a 6.5% increase year over year, which speaking with the CFOs about this, we're pleased with this outcome. In listening to the legislature's explanation, the chairman of these bills, what they said was that their intent was to fund a PERS increase. So we had expected a large PERS increase, but it increased by 0.5% for the upcoming year. And so there's an intention to fund that. We have health insurance in premiums that are increasing. So they intended to fund that. And our request to the legislature was based on getting to the regional average, making progress toward that. And so we heard from them that they also had an intention to try to fund that purpose. In the previous slide, there was 20 million for capital funds that was listed. That is provided for general R&R at the discretion of the universities. This is a slide showing the appropriated bond funds. So historically, the state would bond their own debt and then provide that for us, and then the state would make the debt service payments on that. In the past few years, with some of the surplus the states have been running, they've given us cash instead of bonds. So this is that. But these are also directed by the legislature. So the legislature is making these determinations. The 18 million, as the note says here, for the veterinary school at Mississippi State University. This is to fund the WISE Center. But this is consistent with, at least at the bottom line, what we had been requesting and what we had been receiving for capital projects in the last few years. The majority of the funds go to the education and general budget. So that is, again, the traditional education, research, and public service mission of the institutions, followed by the University of Mississippi Medical Center and our agriculture budgets. You see the AIRS budget down at the bottom is zero. So the schedule ended in 2022, but we still had some carryover funds, and we should in this year spend the last of the unexpended funds and be completely done with that with those funds. So within the education and general budget, so this is the 465 from the first slide that we talked about that was unrestricted. There is still $13 million in line items that are restricted by the legislature. So we still have to take that off the top before we get to the amount that the board will be allocating. These have been relatively consistent over the years. The increase for MSU is for the TK Martin Center, but these are directed by the legislature. So having adjusted for that, then we have the amount of funds left over that the board, what we say, we receive this in a lump sum, so that you have discretion about how to allocate it. And what we're recommending to you with these funds is to allocate them on a straight line basis. So each institution will be getting a 6.7% increase year over year. We came to this recommendation considering the chairman's comments as they explained their intent for how these funds would be used. But when you put all of the E&G funds together, taking into account the line item, you'll see there's some differences in how these percentages work out. But all of that is due to the change in the composition of the line items. And these last slides, these were directed by the legislature. So these are for information. So we have student financial aid in the medical center. The agricultural budgets, 1 at Alcorn, 5 at Mississippi State University. You see this College of Veterinary Medicine has the largest increase, but that's that $18 million for the WISE Center that was referenced in their bill. The subsidiary programs, which are listed here, the operations of the board office, which is the executive office listed at the top here. We received a 9.1% increase. Of that amount, $500,000 of that was for repair and renovation of our facilities here that we're at. And again, the AIRS reappropriations should be concluding this year. So board staff recommends approval of the allocation of FY 2025 appropriations.
You have heard the recommendation from board staff. I make a motion to approve item 4.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Ms. Pierce?
Thank you. So item number 5, you should have at your desk this document. And this contains much more detail than what we're going to show you. So this would have each individual residential facility, each meal plan, each tuition rate, dual enrollment rates would all be included in here. So we have a summary of this information. So this is the tuition request for FY 2025 for Mississippi resident students. These are undergraduate students going through the campus. We're averaging about 3% increase, ranging from 0 at Delta State up to 5% at MUW. Similarly, we have the non-resident tuition rate request. So if you notice Alcorn State, Delta State, MUW, Mississippi Valley, these non-resident rates, with the exception of the international students, are the same rates as the Mississippi resident rate. And this is due to previous requests from those institutions to charge these rates. Jackson State University and USM are a little bit above, about $1,500 to $2,000 above their residential rate. And this is to charge a premium to non-residents. And Mississippi State University and the University of Mississippi are significantly higher. We also have our professional schools. So these are much more market-driven type programs, graduate programs, professional programs. This is the resident rate. So we have nursing, veterinary medicine, MBA program at MUW, more nursing programs. The School of Law at the University of Mississippi, pharmacy. You'll see at the bottom of the University of Mississippi Oxford campus, starting with the other online degree programs, MEd, Ed Specialist at 514, 300. These are per credit hour rates. So this would not be $514 dollars on an annual basis. This would be per credit hour. And the University of Mississippi Medical Center. And then finally, the non-resident rates for each of these programs. So on slide 26, we have been approved in the past some student activity fees, capital improvement fees, and technology fees for the universities. And the purpose of these fees is to, they can only be used for purposes for which the board defines. And so in the past, for the student activity fee, for example, university presidents have come, they've told you some kind of programming or something that they would like to see on campus, and ask you to approve these fees, and you've done it. Capital fees would be for maybe debt service on some kind of construction, for funding ongoing R&R, but these are walled off and not being able to use for other expenses. I think what's important about this is your policy defines tuition as the comprehensive fee that all students must pay as a condition of enrollment. So these are those. So this is by policy, by your definition, this is tuition. And so we have the institutions either roll this into the tuition amount as a number or disclose it close to where tuition is stated. So that students are aware of what the full cost of being enrolled is. Next, we have the room rates, and this is just an average of the double occupancy room rate, which is the most common usage. Most of these rates are influenced by debt service requirements. So in the last 20 years, we've spent a lot of time and effort and funds updating and modernizing our residential facilities, and we borrowed most of the time to do this. And so this is part of the pro forma projections in maintaining both the debt service requirements and the ongoing R&R requirements to keeping up with those facilities. For the meal plans, these are all contracted out at each of the institutions, and so you would receive a contract that describes how these function. This is the most expensive meal plan, but nearly all the contracts are going to have a CPI escalator contained at that, and so most of these decisions are made at the time of the contract approval. So just to give you some idea of where our tuition lies in comparison to our neighboring states. So this is FY 2023, which is the most recent data that we have for this information. For the first time in my memory, we have surpassed Arkansas, but we're basically on parity with where Arkansas is at. Our neighboring states, Alabama, Tennessee, Louisiana, continue to be significantly higher. And so this slide takes and breaks out in more detail the slide that you saw before. And these are all the institutions who are in our peer group in our contiguous states. So this isn't all the institutions, but the institutions that are in our peer group based on our SRAB classification. I would point out, if you look at the red, which is us, we go nowhere above the middle of any of the rates. But if you look at some maybe to the right, after University of Alabama, you'll see institutions like the University of North Alabama, Alabama State University, University of West Alabama, Louisiana Lafayette, Louisiana Tech. All of these are institutions that are smaller than some of our major research institutions, but their rates are significantly higher than our institutions. When we went into the legislative session, we made a request based on funding our faculty salaries, and we have had a 6-year plan to try to fund these salaries. You can see we're about 79% of our regional average, and that region goes from Delaware to Kentucky, Oklahoma, Texas, down to Florida, the southeastern region. So we are about 79% of that. We're still 10% below our neighboring states. And as you saw with the appropriations request, the legislature tried to acknowledge that. We feel like that plan's been successful. We've gotten a little bit of increase each year for salaries. But I think the problem is the target keeps moving. And so while we're making progress, other states are making progress as well. This is the premium on the average faculty salaries for our neighboring states. And so the way you would interpret this is you take Mississippi's average faculty salary and our SRAB 1 institutions. At an institution in Alabama in the same category, their average salary is $17,371 more. And so Arkansas, being the lowest, is still almost $11,000 higher than our average salary. So board staff recommends approval of FY 2025 tuition, room and board rates, and we recommend a waiver of the 30-day review requirement and adopt for final approval.
You have heard the recommendation from board staff. I make a motion to approve item 5.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion passes.
Item 6.
Item 6 is the FY 2025 salary guideline. So by your policy, you are giving them the authority to give pay increases. So this is not saying that pay increases must occur, but any pay increase has to be justified based on one of these 3 criteria. So it's meritorious performance, market or equity adjustments, or faculty staff promotions. And that further, that each of the institutional executive officers or the commissioner will be delegated authority to give pay increases provided that they are justified by one of these criteria. Board staff recommends approval of item number 6.
You have heard the recommendation from the board staff. I make a motion to approve item number 6.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes.
Item number 7, Mr. Pierce.
Item number 7 is a request from the University of Mississippi for approval for a software subscription services agreement for financial and human resource systems. The agreement will provide subscriptions for Workday Human Capital Management, U.S. payroll, financial, and adaptive planning. The term of the agreement is for 10 years at a cost not to exceed $18.2 million. The agreement may be terminated for breach. UM engaged with CampusWorks, who assisted in evaluating requests for proposals. 4 vendors responded, and Workday was the second lowest cost. However, Workday received the highest ratings across multiple criteria, including experience, information security, data warehousing, regulatory compliance, general ledger, and ongoing support. Legal staff has reviewed item number 7 for compliance with applicable law and finds it to be acceptable, and board staff recommends approval of item number 7.
You have heard the recommendation from the board staff, and I make a motion to approve item number 7.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes.
I know y'all are happy. That concludes the finance agenda.
Thank you, Trustee Lucky.
Mr. President, if I may, I want to take the opportunity to thank our legislature for the support they provided our system, both in appropriations and capital requests. They funded what we asked for in our capital request, and a 6.5% increase in our operational funds is a big help to our institution. So I just want to thank our legislature and our governor for listening to our needs. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Commissioner Rankins, will you present the administrative policy agenda?
Sure will. President, in accordance with board policy 301.03, board standing committees require board approval of any board committee, including the proposed committee members and chairs. President Martin is presenting this list of standing committee chairs for consideration by the board.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to approve these members? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next is the information agenda, Commissioner Rankins.
Are there any questions from any trustees regarding items on the information agenda? If not, thank you, President Martin.
Thank you, Commissioner Rankins. Are there any additional agenda items that need to be considered? If not, the next meeting is scheduled for June 20th. Is there a motion to close the meeting to determine the need for an executive session?
So moved.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Anyone not needed for executive session is free to leave the room or disconnect. If you're not an IHL trustee, you are welcome to wait in the lobby. Trustees, please give us a moment to make sure we have the appropriate participants connected. Thank you.